Unit 3, Branches of Philosophy, 1.0. Introduction. This study introduces you to the major branches of philosophy. It is an opportunity for you to know the divisions and subdivisions within philosophy. 2.0. Intended Learning Outcomes, ILOs. By the end of this unit, you will be able to classify philosophy, differentiate the different branches of philosophy, 3.0. Main content, 3.1. Logic. You should always remember that whenever you asked, "What is logic?" it does not have a straightforward answer, which means no straightforward answer can be given to that question. Logic has been variously defined by different scholars. Copy, for instance, defines logic as the study of the methods and principles used in distinguishing good, correct, from bad, incorrect reasoning, 1972. On the other hand, Nancy sees logic as the science that appraises reasoning as correct or incorrect, 1990-34. Kahane, on his part, defines logic as an attempt to distinguish between correct, valid, and incorrect, invalid arguments, 1968-2. According to Dipoarelli, 1999-12, logic is that branch of philosophy that deals with the structure and principles of reasoning or sound argument. To Aid Ali, 2003-5, logic is a reflective study that provides the canons for judging and evaluation of correct reasoning. It is also the study of the principles of reasoning, especially of the structure of proposition, as distinguished from their content and of method and validity in deductive reasoning. What is common to all the above and other definitions of logic is that logic is not a clever way of dogging issues using a cunning means, but rather it is a systematic expository study of how human beings ought to think if they are to reason correctly. It is the study of how to ensure that your reasoning conforms to fundamental principles that governs correct reasoning. Etymologically, logic as a discipline derives from the Greek word logos, which means reasoned discourse. Its fundamental meaning is speech or statement in the sense that each speech or statement consists of coherent and rational arrangement of words. It is a tool for valid reasoning, an essential weapon for philosophical reflection, and for the separation of correct reasoning from the incorrect reasoning. You need to know that logic is an instrumental branch of philosophy. In point of fact, always remember that logic is the tool of philosophizing. Logic enables philosophers to make their arguments well-stated and persuasive more than other people do. It also enables philosophers to make their position clear, well-articulated, and to properly back up their pronouncements rational, their reasoning precise, cogent, and coherent. The logician is most concerned with argument which can be described as a string of statement that can simply be divided into two parts, namely premises and conclusion. The premise is also known as reason or reasons for the conclusion, while the conclusion is the claim that has been supported by the reasons. Before we go further, you must note that there are two forms of argument. They are simple argument and complex argument. A simple argument is one that contains one, two, or three ideas. Normally, such arguments consist of two or three statements as premises with another sentence as conclusion. Example: 1. Only students of National Open University of Nigeria study GST 203. Ambali studies GST 203. Therefore, Ambali is a student of National Open University of Nigeria too. All metals conduct electricity. Copper is a metal. Consequently, copper conducts electricity. You will observe from each of the above arguments, the claim conclusion is inferred, follow from one or more of the premises. And in each case there is a logical connection between the premises and the conclusion. The second argument is a complex argument. This form of argument consists of as many arguments as possible with so many premises and conclusions. Complex argument could take various patterns like seminar paper, debate, a write-up. Structurally, a complex argument normally has a theme with so many premises and conclusions. Example: there are two ways of dealing with criminals. Either rehabilitate them or punish them. Rehabilitation is not a viable option for the following reasons. 1. The cost of rehabilitation has skyrocketed. 2. Rehabilitation is not effective. It does not deter criminals or would-be criminals. 3. There are conflicting methods of rehabilitation. 4. Prisoners seem to be getting too good a lifestyle for what they have done. I suggest, therefore, that we should use the other option, that is, punish them. Acolyte, 2010-18. From this example, you will notice that identifying a complex argument involves a complex reasoning. But you will notice the following when you compare it with the simple sentence that you have read earlier. 1. It has very many major claims premises. 2. It has many premises supporting each or some of the major premises. 3. It has major conclusion, that is, major theme or position being defended. 4. It has additional supporting claims or auxiliary evidences for the position being defended. What you learn from the above, and which you must always remember, is that any argument must have premises and conclusion. For your argument to be good or correct, your premise must provide support to the conclusion, and the conclusion of any argument must follow or be inferred from the premises. When we talk of argument in philosophy, there are basically two types of argument, and these are deductive argument and inductive argument. So, in a way, we can say that logic is the study of the criteria of differentiating correct from incorrect arguments. In logic, an argument is deductive when the conclusion follows from its premises with absolute necessity or certainty. Deduction is the process of moving from the general to the specific. In other words, in logic, we deduce when we move from a proposition describing a condition that holds in all instances to an instance. The above examples are examples of deductive arguments. However, inductive arguments are those in which the premises do not lead to the conclusion with certainty. Induction is based on probability. For instance, when you say, most noun student are dark in complexion, Yisa is a noun student. Therefore, Yisa is dark in complexion. Here the word most does not entail all the noun students. Therefore, one cannot conclude with certainty that Yisa is dark in complexion. Yisa could be among the few noun students that is not dark in complexion. You can see that there is no necessity in this conclusion. Probability is what characterizes it. 3.2 Epistemology. Epistemology is also one of the traditional branches of philosophy. Etymologically, it derives from two Greek words, episteme, which means knowledge, and logos, which means science of study, discourse, or reasoning. Put together, epistemology is the study or the science of knowledge. It is the branch of philosophy which investigates the scope, source, and limitations of human knowledge. In this branch of philosophy, the philosopher wishes to know what knowledge means. Is knowledge different from opinion and belief? Thus, epistemology tries to discover what knowledge is and how it differs from mere opinion or belief. It examines what constitutes belief and what constitutes knowledge. How does knowledge differ from belief? What does it mean to know, and how do humans know what they claim to know? What can we know? Can we know anything with certainty, or must we be certified with mere guess and opinion? Is there any limit to what we can know? What is the relation between knowledge and reality? Does all knowledge of the real world arise out of experience, or do we have knowledge that is in some degree independent of experience? You must know that the recent trends in epistemological discourse have left these traditional problems of epistemology to the problem of epistemological justification. Hence, the question now borders on, how do we justify our claim to knowledge? There are, however, some schools of thoughts in epistemology that you must know. The two schools that will be mentioned here, among others, are the skeptics and the foundationalists. The skeptics deny our ability to know anything for certain, while the foundationalists believe on certain foundation upon which the superstructure of knowledge can be built. 3.3 Metaphysics. This has been defined as the science of being as being. Being qua tale. This is the branch of philosophy that studies reality in its most comprehensive scope and fundamental principles. It is the science that tries to determine the real nature of things. For Plato, it is the knowledge of the suprasensible, therefore real being existent in the ideal world, and therefore explanatory of the realities of this transient world. According to Aristotle, all other disciplines study aspects of reality or being, but none of them concerns itself with the study of being as such. Mann, 1966-18. However, there must be a science of being, a science of the first things or of the most real. Mann, 1966-16. Indeed, the science of being would be the most basic, for in a sense all other special sciences presupposed it. Man, 1966-16. That science, according to Aristotle, is metaphysics. In his view, metaphysics studies the totality of things in the universe, both the possible and the real, the visible and the invisible. Metaphysics is a general study of existence and reality. For René Descartes, it is the knowledge of things which lies beyond this sense experience. While for Thomas Aquinas it is the ultimate explanation of the mystery of being visible and invisible, in the ultimate being, causal and final, which is God. The word metaphysics is derived from the Greek word metaphysica, which means after the physics. The word first used by Andronicus of Rhodes, around 70 BC, a commentator on Aristotle's works. He used the term to describe Aristotle's works which came after the discussions on the physical sciences. It was recorded that Aristotle wrote a series of books dealing with nature which he himself called the Physics. However, decades after Aristotle's death, Andronicus decided to sort through his works and gave them titles. When Andronicus reached the batch of writings that followed the Physics, he did not know what to call them, so he invented a word, metaphysics. This means that the Greek word meta, after, also means beyond. In this sense, metaphysics means that which is beyond the physical eye. It discusses such problems as the problem of substance, appearance and reality, essence and existence, free will and determinism, human destiny, and many more. Various questions that are generated by metaphysicians includes the following among other ones. Why something instead of nothing? Is reality one or many? Is the universe self-caused, or does it involve the concept of a creator? What is the transcendent origin and foundation of this existence? Is reality essentially spiritual or material? Do persons have minds distinct from their bodies? What is mind? Is it a series of experiences? What is matter? Which is primary? What are their relationships? Are men free? Does God exist? What is the divine? If you look deep into these questions, you will discover that the answers lie beyond the boundaries of our experience. This simply means that the criterion for settling such question is not empirical possibility, but freedom from logical contradiction. You should also bear in mind that even if Aristotle is considered as the founding father of metaphysics, as a science of reality, he was not the first to raise metaphysical problems. Metaphysics as an intellectual enterprise dates back to the pre-Socratic philosophers such as Thales, Anaximander, Anaximenes, as well as Pythagoras, Parmenides, and Heraclitus. The concern of these philosophers was the search for the primary stuff of the universe. They were also concerned with determining the ultimate constitutive elements and grounds for the unity of things. 3.4. Ethics. Ethicsis, mostly known as the branch of philosophy which deals with the morality of human actions in society. Omoregbe, 1989, 2. Etymologically, ethics derived from the Greek word ethos, which means custom or character. It is a customary or acceptable way of acting. It is the philosophy of the morality of human conduct. Sometimes it is called moral philosophy. It is the branch of philosophy that concerns itself with right or wrong, and other issues related to evaluating human action. And you should always remember that Socrates was the first to systematize the discipline. He was the first to claim that the unexamined life is not worth living. Socrates devoted all his life to a critical examination of human behavior. He was the first to confess that the only thing I know is that I know nothing. In his opinion, ethics is also referred to as the science of human conduct. It is the philosophical study of the so-called moral facts, namely such things as moral evaluations, commandments, norms, virtuous acts, the manifestations of conscience, Brugger 117. It, in addition, a philosophical study of voluntary human action, with the purpose of determining what types of activity are good, right, and to be done, or bad, wrong, and to be avoided, so that humans may live well. Thus, ethics is the philosophical study of the activities that secure the good life for man. Its concern is with judgments of approval or disapproval, rightness or wrongness, goodness or badness, virtue or vice, desirability or otherwise of human actions or state of affairs. Idawu, 2010, 11. Ethics compare what you do and what you ought to do. Ethics is not primarily concerned with facts or the is, but rather with the ought. In other words, ethics is not interested in the ontic, but in the ontological question. Thus, the focus on the ought as primary mission is what differentiates ethics from other disciplines. You should also know that ethics is divided into descriptive, prescriptive, or normative, and meta-ethics. Descriptive ethics. The duty of descriptive ethics is to examine the moral views held by human beings or the society, and to confirm whether these views are universal or not. In Udo Dem's words, the study of human actions centers on the description of how human beings behave or act without actually making value judgments or prescribing what human beings should or should not do. 1992, 70. Normative or prescriptive ethics. The main duty of normative ethics is to prescribe what ought to be both for humans and society. In other words, it prescribes that criteria for human actions properly be judged as morally good or bad. Meta-ethics. It is the part of ethics that deals with the logic and language of ethical concepts and terms. In other words, meta-ethics is mostly concerned with the elucidation or description and implication of ethical terms such as good, bad, right, wrong, ought, etc. It works hand in hand with normative ethics. As a normative discipline, ethics deals with questions such as, how do humans ought to behave? What is morality? What is the nature of moral responsibility? What is the definition of good? What is the chief goal for which all men should strive? Is it accumulation of wealth, or is it pleasure or happiness? Has man any final end? Is there any real difference between morally right and wrong actions? Or is it merely a matter of feeling? What is the role of punishment? Are moral judgments on what we ought to do objective or subjective, or are they arbitrary? 4.0. Conclusion. The core branches of philosophy are logic, metaphysics, epistemology, and ethics. These branches are characterized by their characteristics. 5.0. Summary. To get the best of this unit, you may need to repay it again. Also drop a comment on the comment section stating the important lesson learned.